Hi, yes. Hi, I'm Allison Arngrim. This is the Allison Arngrim Show. Well, some of you may remember me as Evil Millie Olson, but tonight I'm Alice. My hair's a mess. Tonight I'm Allison Arngrim, and this is the Allison Arngrim Show. And I'm so excited because here on the Allison Arngrim Show, what is going on with my hair? Sorry. Here on the Allison Arngrim Show, we talk about things that make you feel good, the movies and the TV shows that made us feel good, and the people who made them, and people who are doing things now to make the world a better and more interesting place. And oh, do I have someone tonight? I'm so excited. I just met him, and I'm like just a Disnoid, right? And so who does not love Donald Duck? Yes. Donald Duck. Do I have Donald Duck on the show? I completely have Donald Duck on the show. The third human to ever voice Donald Duck. We have Mr. Daniel Ross, okay, best known as the third person to have ever officially voiced Donald Duck, beginning Mickey and Roadster Racers, but he is also Lucky the Leprechaun from the Lucky Charms cereal commercials. Starscream, Hound, Mixmaster, and Transformers, the game, also can be seen in the movies Ninjas versus Zombies, Ninjas versus Vampires, Ninjas versus Monsters, Ninjas, I guess, just versus everything, and Eduardo Sanchez, Lovely Molly. He's everybody. He is absolutely everybody. Uncle Shagworthy from Scooby-Doo. He is everybody. I mean, he's Donald Duck. God, I'm having a fit that I have Donald Duck on. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Ross. Hi.
Well, it's really nice to meet you. And thank you so much for having me on your show. Oh boy, oh boy.
Thanks for having me on the show. Hello there.
That was wonderful. That was great. So much fun. How much fun?
I mean, I had to poke you
how
right
much
in
fun?
the Disnoid.
What?
I had to poke you right in the Disnoid.
Right in the Disney. I am such a Disney. So okay, the obvious question. My hair has just gone berserk. It was fine 2 minutes ago, I swear. The obvious question: how much fun is it to voice Donald Duck?
It is so much fun. I mean, I would be lying if I said otherwise. He is just a treat. He's an amazing character, and a beloved character the world over, generations over. So no pressure, right? I put a lot of pressure on myself to get it right. And when I've been in the studio, I'm thinking of the fans. I'm thinking of the casual person like myself watching TV. I just want to see the character. I don't want to hear Daniel Ross. I want to see the character. So my job is to disappear behind this amazing character, and it has just been the joy of a lifetime to be a small piece of that legacy.
Now, one thing I love about Donald is that Donald, he's kind of angry that he lets it out. Whereas Mickey is always happy. Mickey is like, yes, life is good. Mickey is generally optimistic about pretty much everything. Whereas Donald gets frustrated and he lets it out. He's kind of the id. He just lets it all hang out. Do you find that free? Having myself played very angry people and villains, do you find that kind of freeing that Donald just kind of goes, and like loses it sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is. Let's be clear. He's very impatient, and when he doesn't get what he wants, when he wants it, sometimes he blows up. It's like you could say he's human or something. Obviously, anthropomorphic duck, but he's human. He has all those characteristics. So yeah, he's kind of like us in that respect. And when I get a chance to cut loose, behind the microphone and have fun with a comedic scene or do some physical comedy. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun.
I love that. I love that. And I was just reading that Donald Duck is 87 now, 88. How old is the character of Donald Duck at this point?
88 years young.
Yeah. So we were joking about big shoes to fill earlier. We were the engineer and I said big web feet to fill. It must be an incredible feeling of, as you said, no pressure at all. I Donald Duck.
Yeah, and here's the thing, you can definitely hear the difference in my version of Donald compared to Clarence Nash or Tony Anselmo's. But when the challenge was given to me, when the audition crossed my path and they said, we want your standard Clarence Nash. And that was a very unique sound. So I had lots of stuff to go back and watch and kind of reminisce about and try to incorporate. And so Clarence's Donald Duck kind of sounded like this. Kind of sounded like that. And my job working on a preschool show was to be able to carry a bit more narrative, because the joke always was, "What'd he say? What'd he say? You can't understand
What's
what
Donald
he's
Duck
saying."
really saying? Right.
So for me, it was my producers wanted me to be able to enunciate a little bit clearer, as well as to pitch him up slightly. So, we go from Clarence to mine. You can definitely start to hear a little bit of a difference there. But it's so cool to have that be my little stamp on the character and his legacy, that we can understand him a little bit clearer
It's just
for
Donald has
those generations.
taken some diction classes now, and
Yes.
we can understand the duck. And that is the thing, you're always like, oh, what is he really saying? But that's right. Now in our modern age, and especially for the younger kids, like, well, we're going to have Donald slow it down ever so slightly and get a few words out so we know what's going on. That is brilliant. But that's fascinating how cartoons are and how they evolve and what it all means. Now, in reading about you from early on, though, may have been destined in a way to do this. Tell me about this story about your mom and Donald Duck and you. This is just amazing.
Yeah, so my mom, Michelle Sador, she was an artist of her own right. She was a sculptor, a painter. She would draw. She was amazing with her creativity. And I'll tell you, made some amazing holidays back in the day. We'd come down in the mornings for Christmas, and everything would be transformed and decorated with her special view on things. And it was magic. It was pure magic. So when I was 3 years old, Mama Duck taught me how to do the voice, and that was our love language between each other. We in good times, bad times, indifferent. That's how we would make each other laugh. And she would say to me,
Oh, Pedro, I love you so much.
and I would say,
Oh, Mom, I love you too.
so that was how
Right.
we communicate. And later in life, I moved out to Los Angeles in 2014. I packed up my car. I drove from Maryland all the way out here just to take a shot at voiceover. And within the first year, I got this audition for Donald Duck, and it was like, oh man, I've been studying my whole life for this. So I gave it my best shot in consultation with Mama Duck, and we sent it off, and the rest was basically history. But I was able to bring her out to LA to where they
Oh,
make the cartoons so she could see them actually sketching and drawing. And I loved seeing that sparkle come back in her eye, because it had been diminished with a bout of cancer that had struck before. So to give that back to her and to share that journey and that experience was, to me, true Disney magic. Um, Unfortunately, I lost my mom this year to cancer, and Mickey and Minnie Wish Upon a Christmas was my curtain call as Donald Duck, the last thing that I voiced for the character as my shows had ended. And I got to watch that with my mom. It was the last thing we watched together, holding hands. And I told her, I said, I'm going to honor you through my work. I'm going to let people know about our love story and this whole journey. And so I submitted for the Emmys. Just took a shot and said, "All right, here we go. Let's put it out there." And we got the
can't win if you don't
nomination.
play. Gotta enter.
You have to try. You just have to try. You never know what will happen unless you try. And in this case, I'm so grateful to have been given the opportunity to honor my mom and this journey and this story, just with the nomination itself. Whatever may come, whatever happens, this means the world to me, and I'm so grateful for that.
This is just incredible. I mean, what a thing to have that your mom lived to see you become Donald Duck and literally sit there and go watch all the way through. And this is the first cartoon. This is the last cartoon. You're together. That is like an epic. That's a movie. That is a movie.
Well, she loved it. She loved
like a
it so,
Hallmark film.
and we would be out and about, running errands. We might be at like the drugstore, CVS, and she'd go up to somebody and say, "My son is the voice of Donald Duck," and they'd look at her and go, "Okay, well, all right, lady."
Well,
she was just
that's
so
what-
she was so proud of
my
it.
mother was a cartoon, which is crazy because when my mother's Norma Macmillan, and she was Casper the Friendly Ghost, and she was Gumby, and she was Sweet Polly, Pure Red Underdog's girlfriend, David Glad.
Oh
So
my
I'm in
goodness.
elementary school. I'm like first, second grade because this is the height of when she was doing. I went to the studio once or twice with her, and I'd met Wally Cox, who was Underdog, and some of the people in the cartoon. So I totally knew that she was a cartoon, and that I understood. I didn't like watch a TV and go, "Why does Gumby sound like my mother?" I knew. I went, yes, my mother went to a studio with a big microphone, and there were these nice people there who I've also met who made funny voices. They made the cartoon, so I understood what was happening, but I loved it. So I'm really little. So I'm like first, second grade. So I go to school, and I had told my friends, and some of them were like, last time was there. But some of them got it because they were Hollywood kids. So she'd walk me to school, and these kids go, would you do Casper? And by God, to her credit, it was like 8 o'clock in the morning, and she's like in curlers going, what, where? I so need coffee. But she would go, okay, hi, she would do it. She would do Casper and Gumby, that she would do the whole thing for these like second graders, and they would like, she really is. And so, yeah, it was amazing. So it was really weird. It's like, my mom's Gumby,
I mean, that is the best part. I mean, for me, this is a job. This is what I do for a living, and I sought it out, blood, sweat, and tears. It is a hard job to maintain, but this is what I do. And so to have that effect as a side effect of my job is the most delightful thing in the world. I can, if a parent comes up to me and says, my kid was having a hard day, could you do the voice? I would have said yes, whether it was a hard day or not, but I say, close your eyes. I do the voice, and you see them light up and recognize it. And that to me is just, mwah, I love that so much.
To have the opportunity to make people happy. I mean, that's one of the things I've enjoyed about everything I've done. It allows them to break, makes people really happy. It's like awesome. And to have somewhere you make people happy, it's so, my husband actually said, he's not famous. He's in a band, but he's not famous. And we were somewhere, I was signing autographs, and he shook his head one day and said, if I could make someone that happy by writing my name, I would do it all day long. And there are things where you have the opportunity where to have a character you do something where you can make someone happy. And Donald Duck, to make people, the amount of happiness you can bring to people. And then this is a new Emmy category, this whole thing with the Emmys. And I know because I'm friends with Harlan Bold, does lots of Emmys. He's like, they keep changing things. There's always new, the daytime Emmys, but now there's this and this. So this is the children and family specific entertainment Emmy.
Yes. And it's the first of its kind. I'm so happy that they decided to do it. Not just because I'm nominated, but because there are so many categories and things that go unnoticed and, just pushed aside in the regular categories. It's very limiting. And now it's opened up animation. You have preschool categories. You have voiceover categories for youth, for younger performers. It completely stretches across the board. So I really feel like it's such a win for animation.
Getting thrown in, and you'd have something animation would have to compete with something else, and you'd have a cartoon competing with a talk show, and which didn't make any sense. And then how many slots would there be? And now there is so much, there's more animation than ever before. Just as we've exploded with, Netflix and Amazon, all these other channels, there's all these children's cartoon channels for different age groups. There's like the 2 to 4s and the 4 to 6, and they've all
you have to remember every cartoon usually takes about a year to 2 years at the most, usually, to be produced. Features sometimes take longer, but an animated cartoon usually about a year. So during the pandemic, when all of Hollywood shut down, on-camera performers were not working, stand-up comedians were not working, and so everybody came into voiceover because it was basically unscathed. People could work from home, people could audition from home, record at home. I just had to update some software and a little bit of hardware to be able to do it, and that was a really big shift. So as a result, working in animation became more difficult, but there was so much coming out because that's all they could do.
Even you said, okay, can you come into the studio if you didn't have home? Okay, so come in the studio. It's one person in a room. We cleaned up the mic. The other people are behind a sheet of glass. And there you go. You could do it at the height of COVID. The height of the pandemic, you could do voiceover.
Exactly.
And I mean, that's the thing. It's like, as a stand-up, I had a whole year of stuff canceled. And then I went, oh, there's this thing going on the internet. Next thing I know, I'm on Stage It. I'm on Cameo. I'm on Fabulous. So suddenly I became queen of the internet overnight.
What that was like.
It's like, yeah, you put it out there. And it's so weird. But animation has exploded. I know a lot of people in it, and it's just so huge. So finally to have a whole separate category. We have this and we have that, and then the fact that's, yes, they have needed this for a long time. The Emmys are really evolving because so much stuff has evolved. And like, well, one of the problems I have with Emmys is like a season of a TV show. What is a season when they release all 20 episodes at once and it's binging? What's a season? Nowadays, when's your show on? I don't know. When would you like it to be on?
It's a la carte.
It used to be, when's your show on? Oh, Monday nights at 8 o'clock. When's your show on now? It's all the time. It's everything has morphed and merged and changed. So I'm very pleased with this. So this is literally the first year they've had this particular Emmy.
The very first, and I get to go, and I'm so excited.
Oh, and you are nominated. So I'm thinking shoe in here, myself. But there you go. Now this other stuff you've done, I'm also in hysterics because I try to eat generally healthy, but I will break down and have a bowl of Lucky Charms from time to time because it has marshmallows in it. And I'm a little of a stickler. I remember when it was only the 4, because I was like, it's the 4 charms. There's the box. I personally feel they've added too many charms. I like the rainbow. But they did. I mean, when it was green clovers, red hearts, yellow stars, I can't remember the 4th one. There was 4 charms. And then it's like, well, now we have a balloon and a thing, and then we have a rainbow. It's good. But then it was like 87 marshmallows in there now. But I love the Lucky Charms commercial, and you are Lucky the Leprechaun.
That's right. I'm one of the voices of Lucky the Leprechaun, one of the fortunate few. And he was just such a treat to voice, and also came to me at a very interesting time in my life. First of all, they're magically delicious. Heart, stars, clovers, horseshoes, and blue moons, hourglasses, rainbows, and tasty red balloons. Woohoo! Lucky came to me right at an inflection point in my life. I had moved to Los Angeles. I'm about a year in. I just got an agent. I'm working overnights at Target, managing the logistics process, all the trucks coming in, the freight going out. It was a very hard job. I worked 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. almost every single day. I finally got it in my gut. My gut said, Daniel, it's time to move on. It's time to move on. I started booking a little bit of voiceover here and there, and something in my gut was just telling me, maybe it was my ringworm or something, my tapeworm in there, that's saying, please, it's time to go. I just knew it was time to move on. And so I left my job. I had worked for Target for over 10 years. And as I'm driving off the parking lot, after saying my goodbyes, my agent calls and says, you booked Lucky.
Oh my God.
And I went, I got lucky? And she goes, yes, you got lucky. And I'm like,
literally.
Wait a minute. I literally got lucky. Oh my God. So that was a sign for me that listening to that inner voice was manifesting in another voice, but it was the right moment. It was the right time. And I don't think people trust their gut and their intuition enough. And if I hadn't made that move at that precise moment, I don't know what would have happened. I don't know what my trajectory would have been.
That, these things do happen. And these things have happened in my life. I remember when I first started doing my one-woman show, Confessions of a Prairie Bitch, I'd done stand-up, I'd done a bunch of things. I hadn't written the book yet. People go, did the show come out of the book? No, the book came out of the show. I did it all backwards. But when I first went to New York, I hadn't played New York, and it was a totally new place. I was doing this totally new thing. And I left, I said to my husband, I said, with my shield or on it, because it was like, literally, is this going to work? I don't know. I said, I'm either come back with my shielder on and maybe they're going to kill me. I don't know. And of course, it was like the most successful thing ever. Yeah,
see? And you wouldn't have known unless you tried.
Took a massive chance. I mean, threw myself off a cliff, like went, oh, here I am. And it worked. So yeah, absolutely these things happen. And I do love the commercial characters. Again, my mother, Norma Macmillan. Before we had the Cocoa Puffs, Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs Bird, who I do love, a very long time ago, it was a choo-choo train. Cocoa Puffs was a little choo-choo train. There were 3 little children in a choo-choo train that went, Cocoa Puffs, Cocoa Puffs, Cocoa Puffs. And that is, my mother was the choo-choo train, and like the 3 little kids in the land. And of course, and I had a metal Cocoa Puffs choo-choo train to play with as a child. So she was the Cocoa Puffs lady.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, she was the cook. She was the cook. She was the choo-choo. She was in a lot of stuff. I mean, that was weird. Is really in like 1968, I would turn on the television on Saturday morning, and fully two-thirds of the voices coming out of the set were her because it's like, she's Gumby, oh, she's this, oh, and now she's the commercial. Of course she is. And so it was just very
Amazing.
bizarre that she was all those things at the same time. Have you had the thing where you're watching one of your cartoons and one of your commercials comes on?
Yes, that has happened once or twice.
It's awesome.
I've not, believe it or not, I have not seen many of my Lucky Charms commercials. I think I've only seen two out
Really?
in the wild. We did several, but yeah, it's just one of those things. Sometimes you hear something and you're like, "Oh wait, that's me." That's kind of interesting. As you're
Like
going about your day.
surprise.
There was a Super Bowl commercial that I was in this
Oh,
year
yes.
for McDonald's, and here's a fun story. I was cast as the voice of Grimace from McDonald's. Oh,
Again, my favorite
Grimace.
character. I mean,
He's a
Grimace is
great
my
character.
favorite one. Ronald, yeah, yeah, Hamburger, Grimace,
Yeah.
that's the one I like.
So I
Of
was
course, that's the
cast
one
as
I
the voice of Grimace, and he has a thought bubble with two sandwiches competing for his attention, saying, "Pick me, no, pick me." And I booked this commercial. It comes on, and I listen. All Grimace says is, because they're trying to figure out what they want on the menu. And I'm listening, and I'm like, that's not me. Why is it not me? I go online all over the news. Ryan Reynolds voices Grimace from McDonald's, and I'm like, what? All right, well, if it's going to go to somebody, it should go to him definitely. But they kept me as the two little
fantastic.
sandwiches in his head talking, and so every so often I would see that commercial pop up, and I would hear, me coming out of that. That's so strange.
Weirdest moment for me was because okay, there were two people who did Gumby. I mean, Casper started in the 30s, so I don't know, it's like six or seven Casper people. My mom was like 1950 to 60, but she all the Harvey tunes. She when she did Gumby, there'd been one person doing Gumby, and then she did all the Gumbies after that, and was Goo when they had Prickle and Goo. But they changed the Gumby itself, how it looked at that point. Now, as a child, I did not get this. I just knew that I turn on the TV and that way, yep, that's my mother. Oh, that's the guy. That's the other one. Oh, that's my mother. And right away I knew. And I somehow logged it in to the visual of that particular Gumby, but I could have described it. So 100 years later, I'm an adult and I'm sitting with friends and they're flipping. They go, "Oh, it's a Gumby. Is it one of the Gumbies of your mom?" And the sound wasn't on yet. And I said, "It's not her."
Mm.
And they said, "How do you know it's not her?" And I said, "It doesn't look like her." And they said, "It's a talking guy made out of clay." "What do you mean it doesn't look like your mother? What are you talking about, you crazy person?" And eventually I figured out the one that had the little black eyes was the one done by the guy when Gumby had the big red eyes. Those ones were my mom.
Oh
And
my
but I
gosh.
didn't know when I was 6 years old. It was like subliminal. I went, "That one's my mother. That one's not my mother." But yes, I said it doesn't look like her.
That's wild. That's wild.
So very, very short. So yeah, cartoons, a very real world. Now, what is it in the movies? Ninjas versus zombies, and apparently everything else. Because Ninja versus Venom, Ninjas versus who are the ninjas, and why are they fighting all the different monsters individually? And what does this all mean? And what are you in
Oh
this?
my gosh. I'm so glad you've given me a chance to plug my
Yes.
schlocky independent horror movies. Yes, I made a series of movies called Ninjas versus Zombies, Ninjas versus Vampires, and Ninjas versus Monsters. This was born out of frustration from me and my best friend Justin Timpane. We were both, working actors in the DC Baltimore area, really struggling to find work, and we watched Clerks 2 one day, and the theme of that was, well, why don't we buy the quick stop? Then we can be the boss and we can make the decisions. And we both kind of looked at each other and said, we should buy the quick stop. So at the time, I was working as a store manager at Blockbuster, of all places.
After Target or whatever. Yes,
Exactly.
Target
Well,
bought all
there
the
was an in between
these
time.
side gigs, right? Right.
I worked at Target, then Blockbuster, then back to Target. Um, but we walked around to see what movie was not on the shelves. And we settled on Ninjas versus Zombies. And it was this outlandish idea about, a group of friends who are faced with adversity in their town, and a horde of zombies are magically being resurrected. So they are magically imbued with the power of the ninja to fight off this scourge that's plaguing
Of
their town.
course. Why not? Why
And
not?
it was a schlocky independent horror comedy. We had no expectations of what it would do, and it took off. We got it on Netflix. We got it internationally sold. We followed up with Vampires. That blew up even bigger. That was on Netflix, Amazon, everything. I even had a friend who was fighting in Iraq at the time and sent a picture to me of a street vendor with a bootleg copy of my movie. And I'm like, what? That's kind of cool. I wish they had paid for it, but that's kind of cool. And so
You're
we
not.
finished with
They're not
Vintage
going to
versus
bootleg it
Monster.
unless it's famous and popular. They're not going to do it unless it's good.
You got it. Well, so, we ended up being, I think it was like in the top 10 illegally downloaded movies of 2010. Okay, that's fine. We were just independent guys just trying to make something work, and we did. We set out to accomplish it. We did a trilogy of movies that have its own fan base, and that is, I mean, that tickles me to this day. That's something that is a part of my journey, and all of those people are family to me. My ninja family, as I like to say.
But see, that's what's fantastic is sometimes he's just like, well, maybe we need to go make stuff ourselves. And that's another thing in our new insane world of cameras and online and in our house studios of creating our own content, which,
Yeah.
and there was a time where it was impossible for actors to say, well, I'm going to go make my own thing. Now it's like, sure, we'll do it tomorrow. People are making their own stuff. It's amazing. You have a very good attitude. I was looking at, there was a marvelous interview with you about the Society of Voice Arts and Sciences, who also gave you an award because you are brilliant and you have many awards. It's very good.
Thank you.
And the things you talked about where you said that, eliminating the fear of failure, that you had to eliminate the fear of failure and that you worry about stuff, but that you have to try. Of course, as you also said, use the credit card where you got flyer miles on it. So you'd make sure you had a ticket home. Yeah, I do that. I have the card with it because at least I have a plane ticket, nothing else. But yeah, that's a limit. At some point, in order to do this, as you said, you had to take a jump, you had to take a risk. At some point, you said, okay, yes, we're all afraid that might not work, but what if? How did you just do that, eliminate that fear of failure that we all have and jump at these things where you just said, what the heck? And it's been wildly successful.
I came to a point where I realized that everything that I had done was cumulative of all of my experiences and risks that I've taken. And how big were those risks if I was where I was at the time? And so, through a series of unfortunate circumstances, I had just gotten out of a relationship. My mother's cancer had just happened. So I moved in with her to take care of her during that time. She was helping me with my wounded heart. And I just came to this place where I said, what's next? What's next for me? I could continue to produce films in the DC Baltimore area with my partner and friend. I had even considered running for state Congress to help bring film credits back to the area. So I was this close from being a politician. And then I just got it in my head and said, that Hollywood land so far away, that dream that I've always had. When am I going to try? When am I going to do it? And I'm in my 30s already at this point, and it's like, well, the time is now. When else is a better time? You can't project when you're going to have a better time. So you might as well just take that leap. And so I did. And part of that process was eliminating things that I was afraid of. Like you mentioned, having the credit card. I knew that if I fell on my butt and I couldn't do it out here, I couldn't cut it, I at least had a ticket home. So I could scratch that off of my list of things that I was afraid of. Like, what if I get stuck or something?
You won't be stranded. You can always get out. Yeah.
So I looked systematically, one by one, what are the excuses for me not being able to go? What are the things that I'm holding myself back with? And as soon as I started identifying them and bringing them to light to be able to examine them, I came up with a plan and I moved out here. And here we are all these years later. This was 2014 that I moved here. And now I'm focused on the next 5 years. So I guess I made the right choice.
I think so. It's marvelous. You're talking about, methodically going, well, all right, what's my worst case scenario? What's the thing I'm scared of? Okay, well, how can we, do we have a safety factor for that? Like, well, I got a card with miles on it to get out of here. Okay, that's good. Where was it? And sort of going, okay, well, that will be okay. And here's how we'll try to deal with that if that happens, so that suddenly they're not the end of the world. They're not the boogeyman. They're like, okay, yes, we can do this. That's brilliant. That's genius.
Well, thank you. Again, sometimes you just have to examine things. You just have to put it in front of you and systematically go, A, B, C, D, and go one by one and think about those things. For me, I never thought in a million years I'd have the chance to be out here living the life that I always wanted, doing the things that I had trained so many years to be able to do. But here we are. And so, again, I lean into when you have something that you're passionate about, when you can leverage your own talents and make some money. For me, I knew that voiceover was something I could possibly do. I knew that was something that had brought money in before. Whereas on camera, doing those things, it would be more of a struggle. It would be even more difficult. So I laser focused on what I considered myself to be good at, and said, "Here's how I'm going to capitalize on it. Let's go. Let's give it a shot."
Brilliant, brilliant. But you didn't. You took the chances. It was, and you mentioned that you had your TikTok. Today I went, I should go look at his TikTok channel. He mentions,
I'm
well,
so
yes,
sorry.
I'm always
Oh,
working,
goodness.
my TikTok or putting together. Whatever. I thought, oh, he's got a TikTok. I like TikTok. I've got a thing on TikTok. I've put up only a few videos. I was in fits. I went to your TikTok and immediately was like, oh, this is first with the beautiful one where you're meeting the Donald Duck at Disneyland and hugging him like, oh, I cry. And then Uniform apparently dueling Mickey Mouses, having a tortilla slap fight, striking one another with tortillas while trying to do the Mickey voice and pretty much being unable to because you were in hysterics. Yeah, I might watch that like another 49 times. That's
That
a
was so
really good
much
TikTok.
fun. That was with YouTuber and voice actor Brian Hall, and he does amazing impressions. And so, yeah, we got together just to film some TikTok content, and we're like, let's do a tortilla slappy fight and see what happens. We couldn't contain ourselves. We were having so much fun with it,
Really silly.
as
And you
everybody
meet
else
other
did
cartoon
too.
people on there. You had the voice of Goofy shows up. It's like everybody's there. It's really cool.
Well, I really love the opportunity that TikTok gave me, especially during the pandemic when you couldn't do lunch, you couldn't go out for coffee. How do you stay in people's periphery if they can't see you? And so TikTok was there, and it was like, well, I guess I can showcase a different side of myself. I have an opportunity to tell people who I really am, because people see my credits and they assume things based on that, but I'm a whole person inside of here. And so I love having an outlet to say, here's my weird and kooky sense of humor that Mama Duck infused into me, and here's my journey into voiceover. Here's some fun things, here's some sad things. I'm going to make you laugh, I'm going to make you cry, because that's what we do. I love eliciting emotion in other people. We were talking earlier about making people happy. As a performer, I am so satisfied when I can convey an emotional message to people, whether that's a protagonist, an antagonist. I don't care if you hate my guts because I played such a mean character. I love that. That's what I'm chasing. So to be able to stir that emotion in other people in such an authentic way has just been wonderful. And now more people know me from TikTok than anything else, which I think is
Isn't that
hilarious.
crazy? Well, when the pandemic hit, and I said, "Oh my God, heck am I going to do it?" Like I said, well, I can't go anywhere. You can't do this, you can't do that. All right. And I was like, "Oh man!" And I thought, "Well, I'm going to be home for a bit, apparently." And I thought, "Well, I should do something, good for my mind." I'm going to go back and reread the Little House books. I'd read them. I hadn't read them before the show, which is hilarious. Like I got the part and then had to go read them. But I had read them over the years, and I haven't read them in a while. God, I'd read them in years, and I thought I should read them in order and see how the characters develop and how Laura changes and tells stories. It'd be fascinating. And then I had just been reading this whole article, and there'd been this workshop at SAGWA, but they said, people should read aloud more. If you're home, even alone, just pick up a magazine, whatever you're reading, and just start reading out loud. It's good for your diction, good for your acting. The guy said, just really read aloud anything, read to the cat. And I thought, well, that's a good, and I thought, wait a minute, everybody else is stuck at home and bored out of their tree. I will go on Facebook and go, hey guys, we're just going to read the Little House books and see what happens. We're going to start book 1, chapter 1, page 1, and let's go. And I put on a bonnet and started reading Little House in Big Woods. Laura Ingalls
Oh my
wrote 9
goodness.
books. I read them all. And then we read books about Laura Ingalls and books by people who knew about Laura Ingalls and books by Laura Ingalls' daughter, books inspired by Laura Ingalls. Then we read some Anna Green Gables. And it went on and on. I got to 600 readings and said, okay, I'm taking a break. I read for like 2 years straight.
Oh
And
my
it became
goodness.
it became a community. People started logging on and talking to each other, and people who were stuck in their apartments in different cities became friends and started calling each other and Zooming, became pen pals, and it like turned into this whole thing. It was freaking awesome. And I had a hilarious time sitting there going, and then Laura and Mary went to make the snow candy.
And it was all because you decided to share something that was joyous to yourself. You made ripples.
I went, well, this will be fun. Well, let's see, maybe they'll want to do this. And people were reading along. Everybody got bonnets and got their books out, like read. It was turned into like, it was like a book club. We were having a book club, but it was all online. And it was so much fun. And literally thousands of people like wrote to me and said, this is like the best thing ever. And it exploded. And yes, there's now I have fans now come up and go, I watch your readings. It's like, wow, had no idea. And it led to all this other stuff and everything because I thought, well, I don't know. I'll go read a book. Well, maybe I'll go read it. And something that I liked, and it resonated. It resonated with me. And there's some people said, well, this is keeping me from losing my mind. I said, why do you think I'm doing it? Like sitting here, I'm staring at the walls, going, so sometimes it is the personal things. It is the things that we like that resonate for us. And we think, no, other people won't want that. And maybe they do. Maybe they do.
On the very first example, one of the first TikToks that I put out, it was right before everything shut down, so we were still out in the world. But I had this moment where I said to myself, I am not going to hide behind a facade or a mask. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to be weird. I'm going to be strange. So here we go. Let's make a TikTok of me in the shower squirting ketchup, mustard, and mayonnaise all over myself. And I had that moment where I said, am I really doing this? Yeah, I'm doing this. And I did it. And I get out into the world and people are like, I saw your TikTok. That was interesting. Good job. Good job. And I'm like, I hope you like it. Turns out people actually liked it. So
they like things that are real. They can be completely silly, but they're like, this is really me being spontaneous. They like that. They like feel exactly. There's something real, however dumb. and so I love that. You do Cameo. I do Cameo. I just actually did like 3 cameos right before it came on the show. I fired everything up, did my cameos. Do you do them as various characters, as Lucky or Donald or yourself or both?
I always present as myself. And if somebody has a request, if they want something done in a particular voice, I really try to limit it to, anniversaries, birthdays, things of that nature. It can't be, I'm going to cameo in and have Donald Duck, promote my show or something. I can't do that kind of stuff because somebody else owns that character.
Yeah, I'm all personal stuff. That's what I like. It's yeah,
exactly.
And that got so popular. I was doing the birthdays and the stuff. And then the height of the pandemic in 2020, I had people saying my sister's working as a nurse in the hospitals. And so I'd be like, okay, gang. And I was doing pep talks for people, whatever. It was crazy, but it was so much fun. And I just, it was me like, yes, I'm the one. And that's the thing. People, it was a thing that resonated with people. And suddenly they wanted a cameo. And it gave me something to do. And it was so much fun because suddenly it was like I was invited to everybody's birthday party.
I love that.
Everybody,
that's so true.
Happy birthday! It's like to all these strangers, and so it was very cool. So I like Cameo. When I wasn't going to. I went, oh, Cameo, that's so silly. The people, and then my agent called her. She said, "Are you kidding? The whole place is shut down. Everybody's on Cameo." She said, "Go look, half the town's on Cameo." This like
that's right.
People are like, "You're kidding?" She goes, "Everybody's on Cameo. Go get on Cameo." Like, you're right.
Yeah, I love it. And in 2020, I jumped on Cameo and I just started donating, a lot of my proceeds to like things like Meals on Wheels. Because I'm like, the elderly are alone right now, and the people who are coming to visit them probably can't. So, like, that was my focus during the pandemic was Meals on Wheels. Let's donate. Let me use my voice.
And Cameo regularly will do stuff where like this month we're doing charity or whatever, and so you just go, yeah, I'll make my cameos for this right now, and so it's like awesome. It's just like the stuff you can do, and the cheering people up, and then you get the ones where like my friend is sick, can you like say hi? Like, okay, and it's just, I love it. You also so let's see. Transformers the game. You do a lot of the games. You do a lot of games.
Yeah, these days, I would say the past 2 years, I've been doing just tons of video games, which I love so much. But yeah, Transformers, The very first video game I ever worked on, my very first big professional gig, I voiced Starscream from Transformers. Decepticons, this is Starscream. Make for the rendezvous point. The Allspark will soon be ours. That
See,
was so
that's
much
why I
fun.
need to do a video game because they're very dramatic. They're very dramatic, and there's lots of woo-ha-ha-ha villains.
Oh
in them.
yes. Oh
I,
man,
I,
rich and distinct villains. Absolutely. But I don't know if you can tell. I'm a big Transformers fan. I even have some
a little
cyber
bit, yeah.
on me. So when the opportunity came to potentially be in the very first Transformers live action movie, I wanted to take it. So I had some of my friends, including my mom, help me create a comic book that featured me in a story with the Transformers that I sent to Steven Spielberg and Michael Bay, just saying, "Hey, give me a shot. I love Transformers. I love voice acting. Let me do them both, please." And I got an audition. I got an audition. They didn't have the Decepticons initially in the movie. I think it was only Megatron. They later added Starscream. But we got to the session for the video games, and they were like, "What do you want to do?" And so the original voice of Starscream was voiced by Chris Latta back in the 80s. Decepticons, retreat! He was very high pitched and screamy, hence Starscream. And so they wanted something very different, something that would scare little children. So I went with a voice like this, and that's what we ended up with. I get to the studio and they said, we just want a light British accent. And I said, "So you're telling me you want Starscream to sound like this?" "Yes, that's what we want." And I went, "Please don't fire me, but no. And they're like, "What you got?" And I'm like, Decepticons. This is Starscream. That's what we went with. So I walked away
The scary
70%
voice
happy.
goes British.
Kill me.
The scary voice went British, and the
Yes.
British voice went scary, and
we just came out with something on the spot. But that happens so many times. You audition for something, you get called into the booth, and they say, "Yeah, we're not doing that. We figured we're going to do something else." And it's like, "What? Wait, what? I don't like surprises."
Or they try it, and you're like a few minutes in, they go, "It's not quite working. Can we? What if we?"
So part of my job as a voice actor is to have solutions to those problems. That's how you become a working voice actor. When somebody brings you in and says, "I have a problem. Can you solve it?" And you say, "Why, yes, I can." That's how you continue to work.
It's just brilliant. Okay, Uncle Shagworthy. I'm not touching that line with a 500-foot pole. Uncle Shagworthy of Scooby-Doo. I'm not familiar with the character of Uncle Shagworthy. I did not see this one. Is he literally Shaggy's uncle?
He is Shaggy's zillionaire rich uncle, who is a jewel dealer. And yes, he was in one episode of Scooby-Doo, I think back in the 70s, voiced by Casey Kasem. And he sounded like Shaggy, except a little bit gruffer. So this is what Uncle Shagworthy sounded like. And so I was auditioning for this video game called Multiverses from Warner Brothers, which is out now. And they said, "We want a stuffy British voice." And in the script, they kept saying like. And I'm saying, "Well, Shaggy says like all the time. So what does Uncle Shagworthy sound like?" "Like Uncle Shagworthy at your service for Shagworthy Castle." Very fun voice, very similar to Shaggy in tone. And that was completely intentional. But that has been such a hoot. He says a hoot and a half. But we voice Uncle Shagworthy. We voice Gizmo and Stripe from the Gremlins movies.
Gizmo, bye-bye, bye-bye.
And then, of course, Stripe.
Gizmo, caca. Yum, yum.
So we voice those characters as well. So I'm a big fan of Multiverses.
Friends who are watching this that's just like passed out right now. Everybody knows just watches. It's incredible. You have such a wide range of going, like, let's see, who else? Oh, now Tom and Jerry. Now, when I watch Tom and Jerry, there's not a lot of talking.
Not from Tom and Jerry, but the rest of the cast.
But that's right. Everyone they interact, but they talk. Okay. So
Yeah,
who
I
are
worked
you?
for many years on the Tom and Jerry show, and then later Tom and Jerry in New York. I played a little German mouse named Rutka. He was just such a wonderful guy. Loved to eat his cheeses and stuff. Yeah, he was a lot of fun, and we did a lot of incidental characters. I played Igor, who was also known as Dave. Dave was the Igor of the show, and he would often bring pancake mix to the doctor. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, lots of variety. I love being a utility player on shows.
Now, see, that's fun. It was like, so who are you in the cartoon? Everybody.
Yeah.
In olden
One
days,
episode I'm Santa Claus, another I'm like a purple creature or a monster.
well, in the old days, they often had two people. They'd have like a man and a woman, and everybody higher than high C is that's you. Everybody lower than high C, there you go. And they would just divide up the parts. You want to be this one, and so they would. And when my mother did Casper, oh my God! So she was Casper, and then she was Wendy the witch. Oh, Nightmare the horse, little Spooky, the little bad
Oh,
boy with the ghost, and so all these other like little kid ghosts. And then there was this dude, and he was the ghostly trio, and like all the deep voices. Now this was wackadoo enough, but then they made a Casper album in like 1962 or something, and it's out there now. It's on iTunes and DVDs, and you can get it now, and it exists on Apple Music. The Casper album, and it's insane. It's hilarious because it is literally my mother and one guy. It's two of them in a studio doing a
amazing.
cast of thousands, a huge musical with a cast of thousands. There's this whole thing, going to take a trip to Spookville, a spooky birthday. They go to school, they go do this. Oh, they go to Ghostly Wood and meet Boo Boo the beautiful ghost, who, of course, my mother said, well, obviously it's supposed to be Marilyn Monroe, right? So we just do Marilyn. And said, hello, hello, Gasper. And she said, hi. She just suddenly Marilyn Monroe is in this thing, like for no particular reason. And it's absolutely bonkers. And it's just her and this guy. And there's like hundreds of characters. It's just
Oh
the
my
singing
goodness.
and it's bonkers. And they did that a lot. And when she did Davy, again, it's her and one guy. So Davy's mom, Davy's sister, all of Davy's friends. And the guy is the preacher, the policeman, the fireman, Davy's dad, right? Which means, though, if there's a scene, and there typically was, where it was Davy, his mother, his sister, and four of his friends, my mother would have an 8-way conversation.
Amazing.
And you watch it, you go, how did you not go crazy? So, yeah, so now I think they divide it up more. They do sometimes get more than two people to do the cast of 47, but you still wind up doing like 5, 6, 7, any number. It's just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I'm in on something, I expect that there will be secondary characters or additional voices, and depending on how many you do, you might get a little premium bump on the other end of it, if that's the case. But they're allotted a certain number that they get for free. So you always go in with the one you're cast with, and then a couple subsequent voices. And
That's okay.
I love doing that.
And it's not something that normally that happens obviously in live action where you show up and you go, by the way, do you have 5 or 6 more people you could play in this thing in your back pocket that you just did randomly show up with?
Yeah. Unless
Only
you're Dana Carvey or Mike Myers, and then that's a whole, or Eddie
that's
Murphy,
about
that's
it.
a whole different thing.
You are absolutely delightful. Where do we find you? You have a website. You have the TikTok. You have the greatest TikTok. And the TikTok, it's just what at Daniel Ross. It's how is your TikTok? We get your TikTok at.
So I've made it very easy for everybody on the social networks and the interwebs. You can find me at actor Daniel Ross across social media, the Facebookies, the Twitteries, the MyFace pages, the YouTubes, the Instagrammies, the Tickety Talks, all of those. And my website, you guessed it, is actordanielross.com. So
Boom.
I've made it very simple.
So
If you
good.
go online, if you want to coach and learn about voiceover, you can coach with me through that. If you want to order a signed print, you can do that on actordanielross.com.
I saw those. You have like a picture of like everything you've ever been. There's the Lucky Charms, the thing, and you'll sign it. It's like, oh my God, it's a fan's dream come true with the pictures. And of course your TikTok, you can tell it's you because you've got like, well, you have like over 1 million people on there.
It's 1.3 billion at this
like,
point. So it's ever growing and just ever amazing that I have an opportunity to have an audience, people who listen to my journey and follow along. It's just been such a joy.
And you
let alone this career.
And you coach. You will actually teach people how to be this bonkers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got it. It has to be taught.
Well, I am so
You're kind of pompous. You have to be taught.
I am so thrilled to meet you, and I am rooting for you at the Emmys.
Thank you.
Absolutely, like yay! And it's just, as you said, a fabulous thing to be nominated. But oh my God, this is great! And if you win, what? Wow, mind blown! That would be great. And I'm a big fan of pretty much all your characters there. Just so wonderful to meet you and what you're doing and your attitude towards things and your attitude towards life and taking chances. Brilliant and lovely to hear from you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. Or I should say,
It's been a pleasure. Oh boy, oh boy. Let's do it again sometime.
Yes, indeed. We should. Thank you so much. And this is the Allison Arngrim Show, and I'm Allison Arngrim.